A little AI help, maybe a lot of AI help for road trips. That's our Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. With us is the founder and CEO of AdventureGenie, Scott Lengel. Hi, Scott.
Hey, Fred. Good to see you today.
Nice to see you. So tell us what AdventureGenie is all about.
So a couple of years ago, we got into the RV lifestyle during the pandemic, and we found that when we were planning a trip, whether it be a short trip or a longer adventure, it was incredibly difficult using the tools online to figure out what are you going to do, how do you get there, where to stay, things to do along the way. We found a large number of, browser applications and tools and phone apps that each kind of dealt with a little piece to the puzzle, but there was absolutely no holistic tool, no all-up tool, no all-in-one tool that would allow you to plan your journeys in a cohesive manner. So we started by just going to Google and said, hey, I'd like to take a 6-week trip to the national parks of the Southwest. And what came back was a set of links to the National Park Service, Amtrak, believe it or not, travel bookers, bloggers, but nothing that really walked you through the process of planning a trip, specifically for the RVer or camper in mind. And we decided to build it because we have some experience in software. I used to be a CTO at Microsoft for decades, and we knew that there had to be a better way and a solution to the problem. So we built it, and we think it's pretty cool. We just released it last month.
Step us through how it is used.
Yep. So typically we have these things that we call Genie trips, and they're effectively a set of stops and stays that align to a particular theme. So it might be like the national parks or the ocean or amusement parks or music. So we have these themed destinations and in a particular region of the country. So you might say national parks of the Southwest. And then we present you with kind of a curated set of stops and stays that tell you, oh, if you're going to national parks of the Southwest, then think about Zion and Bryce and Arches and Moab and so on. And we recommend that you stay there for this number of days and do them in this order. So you kind of start out with the trips for ideas. You don't have to use our Genie trips, but they seem to be a pretty good starting point if you're just like browsing and looking for ideas. And then you say, I'd like to take this trip. And then based on what we know about you and your habits and your preferences and what you've told us about you, now we start to plot a trip for you based on where we know you're starting from. We know how long you like to drive at any particular day, so we'll add additional Genie stops. So that's kind of our first bit of magic. We add these Genie stops so that we create a nice trip for you, a nice route for you that makes sense. And you could decide that you want to take maybe a more northerly route out there and a southerly route home. But first thing you do is you shape your trip based on destinations and look at the recommendations that we make for stops along the way.
And is this US only thus far?
It is US only thus far. We have the interest in the market for sure to quickly expand to Canada and to Europe. Technically for us, it's really not a big deal. And once we have all additional pieces in place that are not of a technical nature, we'll go ahead and start rolling it out beyond that. The cool thing that we do, Fred, is we have a ton of artificial intelligence, a ton of AI built in. So as you start to figure out, for instance, what campgrounds you want to stay at, we've done several things to help you along the way. The first thing is we have things called Genie summaries. So you know what it's like when you go searching any travel planning tool or online shopping experience, you're going to get a whole bunch of reviews, and then it's up to you to sort and sift through. We do that through the magic of software. We look through it, we read it, we understand the underlying sentiments, and then we will give you a summary of that particular campground. One paragraph, nice and simple, and it takes everything into account that we could find on the internet. That's what we call our Genie summaries to help you narrow down your campground. We also assign a score to it, 0 to 100, again through AI based on what we're learning about the underlying campgrounds and what we're really learning about it from the internet. And then the third thing on a campground to help you select it would be something we call Genie match, which is the percent likelihood that you individually, for example, Fred, would like a particular campground, again, based on what we know about you and your preferences. And you've seen things like this in other online tools like Netflix, for instance. When you see a particular show or episode or movie, we'd say, oh, we believe there's a 78% likelihood you're going to like this based on other things that you do and your preferences and so forth.
So I've heard that phrase "magic of software" before. So let me ask you this.
Yes.
Where do you get the data from that's going to tell me whether this destination is the kind of thing that I'm looking for? If I like streams in the woods and somewhat isolated camp spots.
Yeah, great question. So a couple of things. First, for the underlying campgrounds or the trips themselves, we are constantly gathering information and learning everything we can about those underlying, let's say, campgrounds based on their amenities and activities, based on our software scouring the internet and gathering information that way. And that helps us to build our database. But then we have to match it up with you. And what do you like to do? And what are your must-haves versus your like-to-haves versus you don't really care at all about them? And we do it in two ways. One is we're going to ask you. So after you come into our environment, we're going to ask you some questions. Well, do you prefer to do X or Y? Do you need to have a pool, for instance, or is that just a nice to have? So we'll ask some questions and you'll share with us whatever you want. In addition to that, we will understand through your browsing habits and your viewing habits that, oh, it seems like Fred always seems to add these campgrounds to his trip that always have 50 amp and power, and water and sewer. So we'll learn, the more you use the system, the more we will learn about you. And yes, we do not share that with anyone. We only gather that information to learn about you so that we could customize the trip planning experience specifically for you.
Is there advertising that is in here or will be in here, or is it strictly through the subscriptions that you're pulling in revenue?
Great question. It's currently only through subscription. Our business plan had always envisioned that we would have advertising and sponsorships. We haven't gotten there yet, and we likely will do that. And we'll be very transparent when we do. And it's kind of like when you're doing a Google search today. If you're searching for something, at the beginning of that, you might see sponsored by, so you know that's an ad, and then you'll see the rest of your search results. You see the same thing in other travel tools like, TripAdvisor, Expedia, and you're looking for a hotel in San Francisco, and you might see the top 10, but then in the middle of it, you might see kind of an ad. So that's kind of the idea of the direction of where we would be going. If we do advertising, or when we do advertising in the app, it will be called out very explicitly that it's a sponsored ad as opposed to what the AI is recommending.
Will you have things like subscriber ratings or recommendations, or is it strictly that you're going to see what you put together through the AI?
It will. We will also have subscribers provide their feedback on particular campgrounds. So they'll give it a rating, and we're keeping it very simple. It's basically thumbs down, thumbs up or I really, really like it. So just a 3-level rating system. They can provide their commentary as well, which again, our AI will then process on top of that. We'll also, there's a lot of AI that we're adding to it. For instance, one thing we just added is something we call Genie Wishes. So kind of think of, ooh, let me rub the magic lamp and I wish I was able to do something at this particular stop. So the latest release that we just made was after you create your trip, you shape your stops, you select your campgrounds, and then you say, you know what, you know that I like photography and hiking, and I like to go to local breweries. So what we'll do again through our AI is now start to plan out a detailed itinerary that says when you're in Asheville, you should go on this particular hike at this time of the day and photograph the sunset. And we recommend this particular brewery because we know that's what you like to do. So we're constantly layering those things in as well.
Sounds terrific. So along the way here, do you let me specify that I prefer a scenic route rather than the interstates, or?
Yes, we will. And that sounds like a very simple feature. And frankly, it kind of is. But we haven't implemented it yet because we are a startup and we're cranking out these really interesting features before the summer is out, and probably way before the summer is out, we'll have that feature implemented. So absolutely you can toggle. That's like one of the most common requests from our users. Like, I don't want to stay on the highway. I have all the time in the world. Just take me the more scenic routes. And other type of travelers say, I got to get there as quickly as I can because I only have a certain amount of time off for vacation, for instance. So yes, we'll be building that in there. We'll also be building in segments. So you might say, okay, let's suppose I'm taking a trip out in the Badlands and Yellowstone and Glacier National Park and the Grand Tetons. I happen to live in South Carolina. I'm coming from South Carolina out to the Northwest up there. The way I want to travel and where I stay might be very different as I'm powering my way out there. And once I get there, I want to take a more leisurely route, and I want to have different amenities in the campgrounds that I stay at. I complete that part of my vacation, which is another segment. And then coming home, I might want to take a different route entirely. And maybe I have a little bit more time to get home or less time. But you could break it up into segments and let the AI process it on a segment by segment basis also.
That's very interesting. So tell us how the pricing works. What should people know?
Yep. We have it's an annual subscription. So that's, and that list price is $99 a year for an annual subscription. Since launch, we've been offering it at 50% off. So if you use the code launch23 and go to adventuregenie.com to subscribe, it'll be $50 effectively. And I expect through the summer, our pricing is going to remain at $50 per year with using the launch code of launch23. You don't have to have a paid subscription. We love paid subscribers, but if you could also become a member of AdventureGenie and have access to quite an array of what we have to offer. Campgrounds, our Genie trips. You just can't plan a detailed trip with routing, and that's where you need to become a subscriber.
What about things like EVs today? I mean, there aren't too many that can tow, but they're coming.
They're coming. Yeah. And by the way, the tow vehicle is coming also, and the RVs are coming. They're a little bit down the road. So what we have is something called points of interest. And you could turn on and off filters for points of interest for national parks or for lakes or for casinos or for fuel stations, and truck stops are really important to RVers with bigger RVs because they got to go to a real truck stop to fuel up typically. We're starting to see more and more requests for EVs. It's just another point of interest. To us, it's very easy. You can expect that you're going to see that coming this summer as well, but not there quite today, but you'll expect to see that in a very soon upcoming release.
And sometimes there are RVers who like to not necessarily wind up in a campground overnight, or maybe they can't get that far, but they want to find someplace where they can park and spend the night. Is there any assistance for that?
Yes. So a lot of folks will stay at like BLM or Cracker Barrel, or I'm not sure that Walmart allows it anymore. I know that they were getting a little bit iffy. So again, we started this with a focus on campgrounds. We will start layering in some of these other things like Cracker Barrel. Again, it's pretty simple. It fits very well into our POI model, but today they're on established campgrounds only, not on these more local or free sites, but that also is coming.
Terrific. So the platforms that you're available on, tell us about that and where you're going.
Yep. So we made a conscious decision to be 100% browser based. So wherever you have a browser, it'll work, and the reason is we may down the road, but at this point we've decided not to build a phone app or a tablet based app or a standalone app of any type. It truly runs in the browser. One is because getting access to a browser is a lot easier than applications on various platforms, which is kind of the follow-on question you have. And two is because we're really targeting it towards more of a laptop or desktop experience, because when you're planning a complex trip, you typically need a little bit more real estate than a phone would provide you. What we've also decided, though, is since it runs on the browser, we optimize it for the mobile device, although we don't have a mobile app. So the experience of running AdventureGenie in a browser on your phone will be different than running AdventureGenie in a browser on a larger screen. And so we give you the best possible experience on your phone without making it an application.
Terrific. For more info, the place to go is
AdventureGenie.com.
No lantern to rub or anything. It just works.
It just works. Yes,
AdventureGenie.com. Scott Lengel, thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you, Fred. Had a great time.